Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into some true horrifying Reddit threads, and oh boy, do I have some insane Reddit threads for you guys today. These stories and threads are so scary, so creepy, and so damn horrifying. You'll want to make sure to stick around, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel's goal is 1 million subscribers, so please subscribe to the channel. And all right, this video will be long enough already, so sit back, relax, grab a drink or grab a snack, and without further ado, let's get into some true horrifying Reddit threads. 20 female, found illegal content involving minors on my boyfriend's 27 male phone. I am sick, devastated, and don't know what to do. First time poster, so I apologize if this is rambly. To preface, I started dating David, not real name obviously, at the beginning of February. Only a few weeks after getting out of a 5-year relationship, I was nervous about getting into another one, but we clicked so well that I didn't think much more about it. I fell hard and he did too. Things had been wonderful, and we were even considering moving in together at the end of the month. All 4 roommates moved out, and I can't afford the place by myself. He and I have also casually spoke about not ever wanting children, and I have never seen him behave oddly around kids in the short time I've known him, so I didn't really see any red flags there. Everything seemed to indicate he had a great head on his shoulders, and we spend almost all of our time together. Last week, I came into my room after making us some dinner, and he was obviously jerking it. He quickly shut his phone off, and I played it off like I had no idea what he was doing. Fast forward to 2 days ago, I was curious as to why he would try and hide it from me. I don't care if he watches adult videos, and curiosity got the better of me. So when his phone was unlocked and he left it on my bed, I quickly peeked through his search history. There was tons of adult videos, all the time, all conventional websites, and mostly teen. I didn't think much of that, though it does kind of gross me out, and kept scrolling, and then I saw some search terms that made my heart drop into my stomach. Predator pics, etc. have been entered around 5 times. I quickly put his phone away and panicked a bit. I had no idea what to think, but my intuition told me there was more to find. I couldn't imagine someone just randomly getting the urge to look it up. I know enough to know that these sort of interests develop over a lifetime. So last night, I peeked through his photos on his iPhone and was traumatized. There were photos of me taking a sleep, of my chest, close-ups of my no-no square, and even photos he had taken while I'd fallen asleep on his chest and he had put his hands down my pants. I felt weirded out and a bit violated by these photos, but it got so much infinitely worse. A bit further up in his photos, I discovered around 24 photos and GIFs of young minors engaging in suggestive positions, exposing their no-no square, and even adults engaging in horrible acts with young minors in a couple of GIFs. They all appeared to be downloaded off of the internet. I was numb. I was angry. I was devastated. I couldn't think, and I was so disturbed at what I witnessed. I've never seen illegal content involving minors in my life, and I can't get these horrible images out of my head. I scrolled pretty far up and didn't really see anything else of minors like that, but there were definitely lots of photos of girls who would definitely fall into the small teen category. I guess I'm just posting here because I have no idea what else to do. I don't know how to confront him, and I know I must separate from him immediately, but I'm terrified of involving police. Our local police are not very useful, and I don't want to get in trouble. He must have accessed these photos using my home internet. He practically already lives here as well and was going to help me finance a new lease somewhere else. Not that that gives me any desire to stay with him, but financially, I am fucked by this. Please help, Reddit. I feel so lost. And now let's get into some of the top comments and suggestions by users. Someone says, call the police and file a police report immediately. Don't let this slide. All of the minors featured in these images do it against their own will, and many, if not all, are stolen. Their parents are looking for these poor kids. You have to do the right thing, otherwise you will never live this down. Get away from him. Then contact the police and file a report so they can investigate this. They will find out he has been downloading this stuff anyway. They do active searches and IP tracking with this sort of thing, and it will eventually lead back to you and your broadband service provider, and you will be to blame and a person of interest if you don't come forward on your own, since the bills are in your name. Even if he or you delete those images, the damage is already done. Those searches never go away, and it's only a matter of time before your broadband provider reports it to the police. If you take it upon yourself to report this, though, it will be done discreetly and you will be given the correct support. I'm sorry you have to go through such a horrific thing. Do not confront him as well, because he will delete the images and could possibly hurt you. Get away from him and to a safe place. In concerns to the photos of you, you have every reason to feel violated. You must get out and away from him as soon as you physically can. In terms of being financially fucked, reach out to your family and friends. Your priority is getting away from this guy, because for all you know, he has done this in real life. This is how it starts. You only started dating a month ago. Next time, get to know the guy a bit better before he practically moves in with you. Another user says, this must be so fucking terrifying and devastating for you. Report him. Change your locks, get therapy. He not only committed a horrible crime that you were forced to see the disgusting details of, he violated you and you found out about it in a horrible way. I'm so sorry. There's no way you could have known, but it's good that you found out relatively early. I know this must be hard to process and face dealing with, but you're being so strong. Therapy will really help you process not only your relationship suddenly taking on an entirely different light, but any confusion, guilt, disgust, or hurt you feel. I know it's scary to consider that he may have used your internet to do this, but reporting him and being open and honest with any law officials, etc., will be what frees you from taking any blame for his sick actions if it were ever noticed that your internet accessed those things. We're all so here for you, and we are completely behind you during this. If you find yourself needing someone to talk to or anything of the sort, my PMs are open to you. I sincerely wish you didn't have to suffer through all of this, and I know financially this puts you in a difficult position. But I have faith that you'll be able to work that out as well. Maybe you can discuss that with your best friend for some insight or advice. And then the OP created an update post a few days later, which reads as follows. It's been a long night. Thank you all for staying patient. Also, this will be an immensely long post, so buckle in. First off, I just want to say thank you for the massive outpouring of support and love. I'm still trying to work through all of your PMs because I'd like to respond personally to each of you who were kind enough to send me loving words of support. I've been pretty overwhelmed by the amount of people who have commented and through reading every last one of your thoughts. I never imagined this post would gain nearly this level of traction and visibility, and it's my hope that if I can provide some description of the course of legal action taken and what advice I used from Reddit users, other unfortunate partners who stumble upon illegal content involving minors and find this thread, at least in Canada, will have some idea of what recourse they can take. I also want to state that for anybody who doubts the validity of my claims, I understand. This is an absolutely fucking insane sequence of events, and as much as I wish I had the energy to make something like this up for some arbitrary karma, I don't. To provide proof, I have sent photographs of identifications and the related arrest paperwork to mods and have worked with them to verify all of what I have written. Yesterday, I was picked up by my best friend Alex around 2:30. We drove around and talked for a while. I went to school, discovered it was closed, my scatterbrain completely forgot about spring break, and then we went back to his house to discuss all of the comments you had been leaving and come up with a course of action. We drank, talked, and after a few hours took a short break from staring at my phone to play some Apex. Alex dropped me back off at my house around 9:30. David was home, in my room, and immediately I noticed how he was exceptionally quiet and distant. He said he had to admit something to me. I prepared for him to admit to possessing illegal content involving minors, but instead he told me about how he had taken some photos of me sleeping. He felt really embarrassed about it, but he just didn't know how to bring it up. I feigned surprise and asked him if he had anything else on his phone he wanted to admit to me. He said no. I asked him to look me in the eyes and tell me that, and he did. I don't know why. I was hoping so badly that he would be so honest with me about illegal content involving minors, but I really thought he'd admit to it then and there. Instead, he admitted he had been feeling S-word the last few months, but didn't think he would act on it. He asked me if that changed my perception of him, and I said no. He grew quiet again, and I left to go shower. When I came back, he was getting changed and said he was going to walk for a bit and grab some food. It was around 10:30 at this point. When he left, I finally lost it and broke down. I grabbed my cat and hugged him and cried and cried and cried. I was so tired and wanted to shut my brain off so badly. I grabbed my phone and dialed the non-emergency RCMP line for my city. Shaking and crying, I explained to the lady on the phone that I had discovered illegal content involving minors on my boyfriend's phone. She put me through to the report line, and I spoke to another constable who told me I would be contacted by another officer who would provide more details. I waited for around 10 minutes. The officer advised me that he would need me to come in and provide a recorded audio/video statement. I asked if I could do it over the phone, and he said no. It must be done in person so that if this goes to court, Crown Counsel has clear evidence that I was not coerced into stating what I witnessed. I don't have my full license yet, and because of the late time, I wasn't able to make it down there on my own via transit, so the constable said he would come pick me up, asked me if David was there, and if I could safely leave without arousing suspicion. Luckily, David knows about my close family-like relationship with my best friend, so I made up a lie about how my best friend got in a fight with his dad, and he wanted to talk to me about it. David didn't seem to question it, and I waited for the officer to arrive. He called me from a block number, and I walked outside and down the block to his SUV. The constable and another officer greeted me. I got into the front seat, and we drove to the station. During the ride, I asked him about whether seizing the phone on my own was a good idea. He explained that I had done everything correctly, laying low and getting my thoughts together to take it to the police without notifying David. He said if I had taken David's phone on my own, that it would have not been admissible as evidence in court. They would have returned it back to him, and he could have deleted all of the evidence since suspicion had been aroused. It was around 10:15 at this point. They placed me in an interview room, and I sat and waited for about 20 minutes. The officer came back in and explained the process of the interview, that it would take some time and to be as thorough as possible with my answers. He said we could take breaks and brought me some water. He started off by asking me details about my life, where I grew up, past employment, etc. After that portion, he asked me about David, what our relationship was like, whether he was nice and kind to me, and anything else I knew about him. I told him he was sweet, that he had been nothing short of lovely in the time we'd been together, but I did express that things had been moving very quickly. He agreed. He then got me to explain how I came upon the photos in question, so I did. Then came the worst part. He asked me to go through, one at a time, the photos I explicitly remember details of seeing and describe it in very, very graphic detail. The positions of the minors, their ethnicity, any identifying characteristics such as clothing, etc. It was intense, but by the grace of God, I was able to keep my composure and not burst into tears. Mental/emotional exhaustion was fully setting in, and I was almost thankful for not having energy to bawl and provide a clear statement to the officer. He asked me if I would testify in court, and I said I would. The officer left a few times during the interview to discuss with his supervisor more questions to ask during the interview and the legalities of the seizure they would attempt. The full interview took about 3 hours, including all of the sitting and waiting. After I had been sitting for what felt like an eternity, the officer came in and explained that they felt my interview provided enough reasonable cause to seize his phone and place him under arrest. They explained how the process would go and whether I wanted a no contact agreement. I said yes initially, but the officer asked me if it'd be easier to not have one in regards to sorting out his belongings. That made sense to me, so I chose not to move forward with the no contact agreement. We got in the constable's car and drove down to my house with 2 other officers in 2 different vehicles, 3 in total. I told them I was more comfortable in a squad car than standing outside. I didn't want to face him, so they moved me to the back of the cop car. I've never felt so anxious in my life. I asked them to be mindful of my cats and not let them get outside. They promised they would make sure of that. About 15 minutes later, I saw them bringing out David in handcuffs. My heart, which had been dissolving in my stomach's acid all day, felt completely gone. I curled up in the fetal position in the back of the squad car and waited to be told I could go back inside. After another eternity, my phone had died by this point, but I know it was well past 3:30. They came back and explained he was under arrest, but being released with promise to appear in court at a later date. I was told by the officer I could go back in, and that they would help him find his way back to the place he'd been staying previously. The officer gave me a victim services card and a hug and instructed me to snuggle my cats tightly, that I did a brave thing, and to be well. I went back into my house, put Planet Earth on for background noise, and called my other best friend Paige, who had been keeping up with me about this since I sent her my Reddit post. We were talking for almost 45 minutes when my door burst open. It was David. He was frantic. His eyes were wide and he was hyperventilating. My jaw dropped. Officers said they would be escorting him back to his prior residence, and I was not at all mentally prepared to see him again. Paige asked me if everything was okay, and I told her David had walked through the door. I would call her back. Immediately, David came to the bed where I was sitting, dropped to his knees, and sobbed violently. He said he didn't know I would be here. He just came to grab a couple more of his belongings. He asked me what the cops had asked myself or told me. I lied and said that they said they had only told me they had suspicions of possession of illegal content involving minors. He sobbed more and loudly and said, "That isn't me. That isn't me. This isn't who I am," and cried more and more. His body was racked with sobs, and he apologized over and over again. It was immensely difficult to witness, and I wish I could have told him to get the fuck out, but I just sat there, immobilized, in shock. It was well close to 5 in the morning, and I hadn't slept or eaten much in nearly 48 hours at this point, so my body and brain felt like they were essentially non-functioning. David began and said that this has been something he struggled with after developing an intense adult video addiction in his early 20s. I asked him if he had ever been abused intimately, and he said no. He said he knew how horrible it was to seek these images out, but had no inclination or desire to ever violate any minors. He had never acted on these thoughts and never would. I asked him why he had never sought treatment before, and he admitted that he was terrified of what people would think. He had no idea what resources to access, and he felt ashamed. He said his previous S-word attempts in years prior were directly linked to the fact that he considered himself a predator. I nodded. I asked him if they would find anything on his phone that would incriminate him, and he said yes, they were going to. He admitted there were very explicit photos, and I asked him how he even found them. I don't recall we ever got to that. He promised me that he didn't use my internet to access it, but I don't really believe it. He apologized to me more times than I could count and asked if I hated him. I told him I wasn't sure that I felt hatred for him, but I was sure of being beyond disappointed in his actions. I told him how terribly I felt betrayed and hurt and violated. I expressed my sadness in what he had done, the innocence of these exploited minors, how he had so much potential to do so much good in the world, and how disappointed this was that he chose this route. Then I heard a loud knock on the door and lights outside my windows. 3 officers were outside, 2 of whom I recognized from earlier, and they asked me if David was here. I said he was, and they said they were coming to perform a wellness check because Paige had called in. I realized I had completely forgotten to text her back and let her know I was okay. Bless her heart. The officers took David outside, and they each asked him if they had any cause to worry about his actions tonight, and he promised them they did not. I told them I was okay, that I would finish my discussion with him, and if I had any issues, I would have them on speed dial. They nodded and left. David sobbed and sobbed for what felt like a millennium, and I just sat and, well, endured it. Tears just ran and ran and ran from him. He said he knew what he was saying was cliche, but he was sure I expected to hear this great big apology. He said if I thought he was being manipulative, he could understand, but assured me he was at his rock bottom and wanted me to know how horribly he felt about not only what he'd done, but what I had to go through. I just nodded. There was silence for a long time. I think by this point it was around 8 or 8:30 in the morning. I don't know how long I stared at my TV screen that said, "Are you still watching Planet Earth?" But it could have been a lifetime. I had no concept of time or what to do or say or what was the right way to feel. I think David was either silent or had fallen asleep against my bed. I didn't know or care. I was just numb. I would have probably sat like that until I died, but 2 of my 4 cats descended on my bed and meowed for food. I got up, fed my little critters and cats, and came back to bed. My brain wasn't capable of thought, so I stared at my TV screen until I passed out sometime around 9. I didn't sleep for long because when I woke up and checked my phone, it said 11:30. David was still awake and crying still. When he realized I was awake, he sat up and looked at me immensely pained. I just stared at him. He started apologizing and apologizing more. He expressed his life was over. He had nobody and nothing, and that I was his greatest light in life. How he never wanted to lose me. He expressed how much he cared about me and how he would do anything to win my affections back, to get me to give him a second chance. I shook my head and he sobbed, apologizing nonstop. At this point, I finally asked him to leave. I told him I needed space to sort out my emotions and I needed to get some sleep. I asked him if it would be okay. He nodded and grabbed his things. He said he would get out of my life and not contact me if that's what I wanted him to do. I said nothing. He expressed how much he loved me again and how sorry he was, and that if there was ever any chance of anything happening between us ever again, that he would be there. He said I love you about 10 million times and grabbed his bag and stepped out of my door. I've been laying in bed since then and writing this. I just want this to be over. I just want to move on and figure out how to sort the mess that remains. Also, I think I forgot to add that his court date is set for June. As far as sentencing, if he's found guilty of possession of illegal content involving minors, I believe he could be sentenced to 18 months max and a minimum sentence of 90 days. I will post updates again if I feel they are important. Otherwise, I will update again in June when he has been sentenced and let you know what charges are laid. Thank you all again for your support, kindness, and love. I have never in my life experienced such an outpouring of generosity and compassion, and I would have been so lost without some of your advice. I'll continue working on replying to your PMs, but in the meantime, I think I'm going to try and finally get some goddamned sleep. And then the OP doesn't give us an update for many months, but she finally comes back and gives us the update we have all been waiting for. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. I hope you and your families are staying safe in these shite times. As I'm sure you're all aware, I've waited a long time to write this post. Thank you all for staying patient. A lot has happened in my life since I initially posted about what I discovered on David's phone. Initially, David was sentenced on court on June 11th, 2019. Well, June 11th came and went, no trial. I hadn't been contacted since by the constable assigned to the case, and as much as I wanted to figure out what was going on, forgetting about David, unpacking boxes, and moving on with my life was of more importance, so I didn't try very hard to reach out to the cops. A couple of times I did, but the officer assigned to David's case never directly answered my calls. And when I left messages at the detachment where he worked, I was never called back. July, August, and September passed, and I still received no word from the police on what was happening with the charges. In late October, I was rang from an unknown number. When I answered, it was a female constable. She asked me if I would have any time that evening for her to stop by and discuss some things with me. I agreed, and she came over to my new condo unit. She told me that the old officer was no longer assigned to the case, and instead it was taken on by her. She asked me to go over some more details regarding the incident and how I discovered the photos. We talked about where I thought David might be, who I thought he might have had any personal connections to, things like that. She asked me some more details regarding the photos he took of me and asked if I wanted to press charges regarding that. I thought I already had back when I initially provided an interview back in March, so I was a little confused by this, but I, of course, said yes. I asked her why the trial hadn't happened in June and when she thought the charges might be finalized. She was unsure. Explained that the digital forensics team was unfortunately inundated with processing/investigating devices containing illegal content involving minors, and it was taking them a while to finish processing everything related to David. I expressed that the last officer was not particularly forthcoming with any updates or information, and she assured she would stay in contact with me and give me a call as soon as she had any notable new information to share. Well, that notable update came 3 days after Christmas. I remember this because I was still in the process of unpacking boxes in my new bedroom at Alex's dad's house when I got the call. She wished me a belated Merry Christmas and told me she had some not so fortunate news to share. Basically, David was not charged with a single thing. He never went to court. He was never added to a S-word offender registry. Literally nothing. I remember yelling, "What the actual fuck and why?" and also crying. Not my most contained moment, but I really can't begin to explain the frustration and anguish this news gave me. The officer was, to her credit, very empathetic and understanding. She explained that it was simply due to the way in which I discovered the photos. She explained it to me like this. Basically, in Canada, the version of the American Constitution is the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. One of these is a charter right to privacy. This is related to electronic devices as well. Since his phone was generally locked by a passcode that I didn't know, and I was essentially went on the phone without his permission while he was asleep, regardless of my initial innocent intentions, Crown Counsel deemed it was a breach of his charter right to privacy. Therefore, all of the photos I subsequently discovered were not admissible in court. And since that was essentially the only evidence that existed, the charges had to be thrown out. Not only for the illegal content involving minor charges, but also for the photos he had taken of me without my consent. I told the constable that I thought it was absolutely ridiculous, maybe some more expletives, and she actually agreed with me, but told me there was nothing more she could do. Now the case was closed. The justice system had done its job, and she gave me another number for victims' services, which I pretended to write down but didn't. So, yeah, that's it. Life was to go on. Happy fucking New Year. Some other details, mostly about me if anyone is curious. I haven't spoken to David since the beginning of May, when he called me from a payphone and decided to tell me his cat, who I had cared for over the course of a few weeks while he was in and out of homeless shelters after I kicked him out, had a blood infection. I remember telling him I was sorry and I hoped she got better soon. I didn't say anything else, and this triggered him into blowing up at me over the phone, telling me that it was obvious I only cared about his cat and I never cared about him. I ended up getting immensely pissed off that he had the audacity to raise his voice at me over something so stupid, so I hung up. At this point, any sympathy I had for him immediately went out the window, and it clicked in my head how truly, for lack of better words, fucked he was. I was really, really mad. He called me back right after, and for some reason I answered. I don't really remember what all was said then, but I do remember essentially telling him he was a disgusting predator, a manipulative sociopath, and his lack of genuine remorse for anything made me want to throw up. He tried to yell at me that I ruined his life, and I hung up the phone. For good this time. He called me back a few times, but I turned my phone off, and that was essentially the end of any contact. His mother, of all people, ended up messaging me and told me that me contacting him was really bad for his mental health. This pissed me off because not only was he the one who contacted me, but all of this he did to himself. And what of my mental health? I didn't ask for any of what he brought onto me. Not to make myself the victim here, but holy fuck. To say I have severe trust issues as a result of all of this would be an understatement. Those images are burned into my fucking brain. And now, those things, the sounds of kids laughing, crying, trigger some of the worst shit I've ever seen to flash back in my brain. I developed chronic insomnia, and my eating disorder came back in full swing. If I hadn't been for a really good network of gaming friends, thanks Apex, and my best friend helping me to pay my bills and get into a place at such short notice, I would have been even more fucked. My animals are literally my family. Mom died 10 years ago, estranged from father, and I was this close to having to rehome them. 2019 was one of the worst fucking years of my life. And there have been a lot of shite years, but pity party over. Was it worth it? Well, despite everything, yes, it was. I'm glad I acted and did something. I hope that the poor children involved in that material are found, are rescued, are provided with therapy and love. I hope the information I provided to police helps them rescue children in some way. Maybe it's only a small percent chance it will, but if I hadn't done anything, that small percent would be a definite zero. And I learned some important things. I think I moved through the world with far too much naivete prior to David. I had a huge issue with abandonment, being alone, and codependency issues. I don't really struggle with so much anymore. That's why things progress so quickly with him. He also taught me what manipulative people look like by example. I also learned that 2 months is a laughably short period to dedicate yourself to living with someone, and that 28-year-old man who are going for women significantly younger than them are probably doing so because they lack the ability to attract more mature women of their own age. So, to the young birds reading this, take your time getting to know someone. Don't rush things, even if the energy is strong at the beginning. You are more than the chemicals in your brain. Now, to every single person who messaged me or commented with love, please know I read every single one of your messages, even if I didn't reply. To someone with none, you truly felt like a pseudo family, and your reassurance of my actions and your thanks for doing the right thing really helped erase any doubt in my mind that I was making the wrong choice. I will always feel gratitude in my heart for your multitudes of kindness. To everyone who messaged me telling me that I was faking it, that I was just as bad as a person as David, that I ruined his life, that I should commit S-word, that I deserved it, I am sorry for whatever circumstances in your life have caused such anger that you feel you must lash out and try to hurt other people as well. I wish you all peace. This will be the last post I ever make regarding this. For any future folks who find themselves in a situation similar, please do not hesitate to act. Difficult things make us stronger, and you are very strong. Like Sylvia Plath said, out of the ash, I rise. Take care, everyone. Came home from a 5-night camping trip to find eat shit drawn in the dust on our sliding door. Took a closer look, and it's on the inside side. Nothing is missing. Nothing has even been moved. Originally posted to r/RBI and the post reads as follows. And right away, the OP links a picture to the sliding glass door that she referenced in the title. And like the title says, it says "eat shit" on the door and written on the inside. And like the OP said, also in the title, that they were gone for 5 days previously. So how could someone have broken in, wrote that on the sliding glass door, and then left without taking anything? Pretty concerning and pretty weird, but let's get into the bulk of the post. The OP starts by saying, "Good morning. Girlfriend and I rent a 3-bedroom house from a company in a middle-class area west of Phoenix. It's a smart home with no video surveillance yet, but there is a motion detector facing the living room and sliding door. And the company knows when the front door opens, so we'll be checking with them today to see if they have a record during that time frame. They were closed last night. When we left, I remember double checking the locks, including the sliding door, and I feel confident that I would have noticed it that day had the writing been there. It also appears to be fairly new. When we arrived back yesterday and had this realization, I cleared the whole house, checked every closet and shower, every possible hiding spot. We do not have an attic or basement. No sign of anyone having been here. No bathroom use, no food missing. I have a lot of expensive music gear, and nothing seems to be missing or moved. It feels like no one has been here. But here's this writing on the inside. How? We have a carbon monoxide detector as well. The locks. Front door is a code lock. Automatically locks if you just leave it. But I manually locked it when we left. Sliding back door is just that standard metal clasp, and the OP actually attached a picture of it. Windows have dual clasps all locked. The property is walled off. 6-foot brick wall around most of the property, and an iron gate on the other side. Scalable? Sure. Garage leads to a deadbolt door to the house, which we left open, so I suppose it's possible someone got the garage door open and left through the front with it locking automatically behind them. Company should have that record if that's the case. We only took my truck on the trip. Her car was in the garage. The idea that someone would get the garage open, despite seeing a car there, come in, not touch anything, write that, and leave without taking anything, I just don't see the motivation. We don't have enemies here. We know several of our neighbors, haven't checked with them either, haven't called police because we were tired. Everything seems intact and the company was closed. Want to check with them first. No, it doesn't say "and die" anywhere. I was half expecting it. I can see a joke here about how much my girlfriend hates me, and I appreciate that, but nah, she's great, but she's not a good actor. Unless being a bad actor is part of her act, she's creeped out. And let me try to eliminate myself. I draw my T's straight down, not hooked to the right like that, and I would remember writing it, and certainly remember the mildly clever use of using the same T for both. It's also just not something either of us would say, and we don't really talk like that. And we didn't have a big fight or get blackout drunk. Haven't had any visitors over recently. So that's it. It's baffling. I don't know if it's something that can be verified, but I'm not into creepypasta. This is legit. Any theories, welcome. Thanks. And then the OP provides an update about a day later saying, well, the company had no record of an entry during that window, and we actually figured out how to look at it ourselves in the app. I armed the sensor, and it went off when I walked through it, so it does work. However, it was unarmed while we were gone. So the front door worked, but there was no record, so it's possible someone entered through the back. Although I did try lifting up the handle, pushing on the door as people suggested, and I could not get it to budge. I think this is a solid one. I guess we'll never know. I'm looking at camera systems. I'll update if we find out anything else. Thanks, everyone. And now let's get into some of the top comments and theories people have. Someone says, how often do you clean that glass? Could it have been there all along and a buildup of dust and the right lighting made it stand out? And then someone replied to that saying, I'd also guess it was already there and investigate further back up until the last time you cleaned the glass. And then someone else says, finger oils stuck to the glass, and since no one was there to clean it off, it picked up the dust and boom, now it shows up. It's virtually impossible sometimes to see the oil until something collects on it. And then someone replies saying, bingo. Maybe the days before the vacation had high pollen and it got into the house. It settled to the door and stuck to the oil. Someone else says, I'm wondering if it was possibly there previously, but not noticeable until dust accumulated, as if someone had drawn it with a finger, possibly in frost, or if the door had fogged up, and it just didn't show up until the dust didn't stick to the oils from the finger. I mentioned this as a possibility since I once exited my shower to see a smiley face on my medicine cabinet mirror. My young daughter had drawn it previously, but it wasn't until my shower fogged the glass that I saw it. And so that seems to be the general consensus in the comments, that people think the OP or someone the OP knows, like their girlfriend or whatever, wrote it on the glass beforehand or way beforehand, and it just required the high pollen or dust to eventually show up. And so it's most likely the OP that is freaking themselves out. But what do you think? Do you think possibly a robber or someone that broke into the house wrote that on the glass and left without taking anything? Or the more likely theory that the OP or someone the OP knows wrote that on the glass a long time ago, and the special conditions finally made it shine through, but the OP has not since updated this, and this was 4 years ago, so most likely people in the comments guessed correct, and the OP wrote it themselves, but I'll leave it up to you. What do you think? I, 24 female, had accidentally killed my boyfriend's 28 male bird and had said hurtful things to him. I'm afraid that he's going to hate me. I am going to say this now. In no way do I believe that my actions were justified. I hadn't meant to do what I did, and I feel incredibly guilty about the whole situation. I feel like there is no way I can ever apologize to him in a way that would be adequate enough to atone for my actions. We've been dating for 3 years, but have known each other for about 5 or so years. We had always been close friends. He's had depression/anxiety for a majority of his life due to his childhood. Our relationship was more or less perfect. I've always tried my best to be understanding due to some strange habits/attachments that he uses to cope with his illnesses. While his attachments were somewhat unhealthy, in my own opinion, as long as it helped him cope, I tried not to mind it much. One of his weird attachments was a bird. He had never been addicted to drugs/SH, but had found comfort in this cockatoo that he said he had since high school. I had never liked birds much, but he says that doing stuff like bird watching had always helped him to take his mind off of any intrusive thoughts. His bird wasn't aggressive or anything, but I wasn't a big fan of it. He had what I considered to be an unhealthy attachment to the bird, but I had never said anything to him about it. These past couple of months, our relationship had been a little rocky. I'm not sure what happened, but he started to avoid me and would clam up whenever I asked him what was wrong. For context, we lived together. This had happened before, but never to this extent/time period. I began to wonder if I had done something wrong or hurt his feelings somehow. He had explained before that sometimes he just gets like this for no reason, and he assured me that it would always pass. It normally would, but this time I wasn't too sure. It had gone on for too long. My boyfriend works from home, and I had the day off. He was in his office doing whatever the hell he does with that damn bird. I swear, he pays more attention to the bird than he does to his own girlfriend. At one point, I went into his office and locked us both inside, demanding that he tell me what the problem is. Bad idea, probably. He hates being cornered, and I knew that and decided to use that against him. He asked for me to unlock the door and to leave, and that he'd talk to me later / in the living room. I refused, once again demanding that he tell me what's wrong, and if he didn't, I'd break up with him. I feel like it was kind of a low of me to corner him and threaten him, essentially forcing him to share something that he wasn't comfortable sharing at the time, but that thought didn't cross my mind at the time. I feel terrible, but all I wanted at the time was answers. We had gotten into a heated argument, although one-sided. Admittedly, it was just a slew of insults on my end, and then he started to clam up and the bird ended up stealing his attention once more. I just about had it with him ignoring me to pay attention to his bird, and in the heat of the moment, told him just that. I clearly remember telling him, just date the damned bird since you obviously love it more than you love me. He tried telling me that it wasn't true, but I guess I wasn't having it, and the end result was him pushing me out of the way to unlock the door and him leaving the house. I don't know where he went, but I didn't care. I went to the guest room, as we had a shared bedroom that I did not want to be in at the moment, and I remember crying my eyes out. It was around 3 a.m, and he still wasn't back. I had trouble sleeping and was worried about his well-being. During the argument, I had said some things that were based upon a few of his many insecurities, and had said some awful things to him that I didn't actually feel about him. I had tried texting him and calling him, but he had left his phone at home. His car was still there, but I have no idea where he could have gone. I had left my room with the intention of getting a snack, and then waiting for him to come home to offer an apology. The bird was usually noisy at night, but the house was almost unnervingly quiet. I didn't pay any mind to it. I was walking down the hall, it was dark, when I felt something under my foot. I heard this crunching / snapping, squishy sort of sound. Sleep deprived and groggy, it took me a while to actually realize what had happened. I moved back, felt along the walls for the light switch to the lights in the hallway. I hadn't turned it on previously because it was too bright, and I had been in the dark guest room all night. I figured that there was no hazard, but I forgot that my boyfriend was the one that put the bird in its cage every night. My boyfriend wasn't there. I felt sick, like actually, genuinely sick. The first thing I did when I realized what I had done was cry. The bird was still moving. I hadn't killed it, but I'm guessing that its spine snapped or something because it was on the floor, kind of sprawled out, struggling to move. I didn't know what to do. I ended up putting it in an empty delivery box and sticking it in the closet in the hallway. Sure, I hated the bird, but I didn't want it to die or anything, much less kill it myself. I hadn't meant to do it. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, locking him in a room and demanding information from him is abusive and controlling. I don't buy your story about the bird. If that is how it happened, you should have called an emergency vet ASAP. And then someone replied to that saying, I'm starting to not buy it either. Cockatoos are kind of tall. I'm not sure what kind of steps she was taking, but even if it was an accident, it's absolutely heinous that she stuck a living bird in a cardboard box to die and then acted like everything was fine when he texted her to take care of it. Someone else says, your story doesn't really add up unless the bird was lying quietly on its side in a darkened hallway. Not likely at all. It seems more likely you maliciously killed the poor thing. Someone else said, you are an abuser. He should hate you. You refused to compromise with him or attempt to understand his relationship with his pet. You locked him in a room to scream abuse at him. You became so jealous of that bird, at best, you left it alone to die. You respect your boyfriend so little, you felt it's acceptable to let him believing his pet is alive. There is no way to come back from this. You need to break up immediately and get intensive therapy because you absolutely 100% have serious mental health issues to act this way. And then the OP makes a comment saying, how else was I supposed to get him to listen to me? We live together, yet I rarely see him around the house. He'd avoid me, and I don't know why. Is it wrong to want answers when he's behaving weirdly? He'd just stay cooped up in his office all day and night with the dumb bird, and I'd only see him when he left to get food. People are assuming that he'd be better off if he broke up with me. Why? I'm not an abuser, and am the only support system he has left. I technically didn't lie to him either, so... And then someone replies to that saying, you are a horrible psychopath. Maybe that's why he'd be better. Someone else replied to that saying, would you feel comfortable if he locked you in a room and demanded you to do something he wanted? Not likely. And the OP responds saying, well, I wouldn't avoid him for a month without explanation. So if it all boils down to it, it's really his own fault that his bird is dead, not mine. And then the OP also says, I will tell him eventually when he asks about it. I'm not exactly sure how to bring up the fact that I accidentally killed his bird. And someone replied to that saying, you call him right the fuck now is what you do. Someone else replied to that saying, you're hiding it from him on purpose because you know he won't stay with you if you say what happened. And the OP responds to that saying, he'll stay with me either way. He has no choice in the matter. Other than the dumb bird, he has no one else that supports him like I do. Unless he wants to die depressed and lonely, he'll stay with me. That's not my concern. I just want him to understand that it was an accident entirely. So I'm not sure why you're jumping to conclusions. Someone else comments saying, you got jealous of a bird, wanted to control his relationship with his bird, and neglected to care for it while he trusted you with it. Congrats. You need mental help. And the OP responds saying, I didn't want to control his relationship with the bird. I just felt like he was too attached to it. I felt it was unhealthy for him to be so obsessed with a bird that was going to die sooner or later, as he had it for a long time. I wasn't jealous. Is it a sin for a girl to want her boyfriend to pay attention to her? And then someone replies saying, cockatoos live for 30 plus years. They also require almost 24/7 care, and what he was doing was 100% normal for cockatoo owners. They are one of the most demanding birds for caretaking. You would know this if you talk to him about his hobby, but it doesn't seem like you care much about him in the relationship. You're more worried about him hating you than how he's going to feel about losing his bird he could have had decades more with. Edit, they actually live around 50 years. And the OP responds saying, even when he wasn't taking care of the bird, he'd do weird things like talk to it. I mean, I get why people talk to dogs, but a bird? We lived together, but I still felt like he was giving the bird more attention than he was giving his own girlfriend. And then someone replies to that saying, grow the fuck up. He loved his bird. Haven't you ever loved anything beyond yourself? People talk to their pets. How is this such a strange concept to you? Are you a sociopath, OP? You're too immature and mentally unstable to be in a relationship. I hope he realizes this and fucking runs. And then the OP gave us an update one day later. Let's get into it. I'd like to start this off with a thanks for absolutely nothing. I posted to this site for advice, but got nothing but criticism and false accusations. I figured that you guys would appreciate an update and are satisfied with the end result. He came home this morning, or later in the morning of the incident, as it had happened at 3 a.m. He came home around 8 or 9 a.m. We talked for a bit about what happened, and he seemed to be fine for the most part. He was hesitant in asking if I had fed the bird like he had asked me to. I told him no, and he asked me why. I told him that I couldn't find the bird. He gave me a weird look. I'm not even sure what kind of expression it was, more of like a grimace. And he asked me again where the bird was. I told him the story of how I had accidentally stepped on it, and he immediately told me that it was bullshit. He told me that the bird was trained to return to his cage after sunset, and that it wouldn't just lie down in the middle of the hallway like that at 3 in the morning, much like you guys said, except I was telling the truth. I'd never seen him so upset, or angry for that matter. He accused me of killing the bird on purpose, which is something I didn't do, and something that no one believed me when I say that was an accident, for whatever reason. He asked me to leave the house, and I refused, as I didn't know if he was planning to SH or something if I left. He locked himself inside his office, and he won't talk to me. I fear for his well-being, and I won't be there to stop him if he tries to do anything drastic. How do I get him to listen to me? A majority of you are convinced that I killed the bird on purpose and that I'm abusive, even though that is not the case. It was an accident, and I am being misunderstood. I just don't know what to do. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, just leave him alone. Why would he listen to you or trust you when you lied to him about why you didn't feed the bird? I couldn't find it turned into, well, it's dead because I stepped on it. Leave him alone and go get the therapy you very obviously desperately need. Someone else says, poor guy, just leave. Another user comments, your relationship is toast, accident or not. He'll never look at you the same way again. He won't trust you, as this is something so traumatic for him he will never get over. You should just leave as he says. That's the best thing for both of you. No good can come from sticking around. And that is the last update we have ever received from the OP. My wife fell deep into conspiracy theories and online hate groups. Is there any saving our marriage? I, 36M, have been married to my wife, 34 female, for 6 years. We have a 4-year-old daughter, and I really don't want a divorce, but I'm starting to feel like I've run out of options. When we first met, my wife was a kind, brilliant, and outgoing person. Over the past few years, she's changed in ways that really scare me. She's become very involved in online conspiracy spaces and online hate groups, and now spends hours every day scrolling and arguing online. It's like she's living in a different reality. She hasn't held a stable job in about 3 years. She'll take on part-time work, but ends up quitting or getting fired after a few months. Meanwhile, I've become the sole provider and have also taken on most of the parenting. Our daughter loves her mom, but my wife often seems distracted or disengaged, and it breaks my heart to see that. Another issue is she has become more racist over time. It started as an obsessive dislike of a certain celebrity, but it's turned into outright racist comments, particularly toward women of color. She's lost several relationships because of it, and even her family has started to distance themselves. They still check in on me and our daughter, but they've made it clear they don't know how to reach her anymore. I've begged her to try therapy. She actually did for a few months. And for a little while, I saw glimpses of the person she used to be. But she quit, and everything went back to the way it was. I'm emotionally exhausted and worried about the environment our daughter is growing up in. I don't want her picking up these beliefs or thinking this level of disconnection is normal. That said, I'm also terrified of what divorce might do to her. I always believed in trying everything before walking away, and I don't want to feel like I gave up too soon. That's why I'm thinking about asking my wife to go to couples therapy. Maybe she'd be more open to it since it won't be just her. My question is, how do I even bring this up? Would it be wrong to tell her that I'm considering divorce if she refuses? I don't want it to sound like a threat. I just want her to understand how serious things have gotten. I love her and want to believe there's still a way forward, but I can't keep doing this by myself. If anyone has been in a similar situation with a partner who's fallen deep into conspiracies or become resistant to therapy, how did he approach it? I really want to try everything I can before making such a painful decision. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, threatening divorce to force her into couples counseling is not the appropriate route. For couples counseling to work, both people need to be open and willing to do the work. Approach couples counseling as a team effort. It's something that could help you both better communicate and work together. Couples counseling doesn't solve relationship issues, but it can give you the tools to tackle the issues together. The rabbit hole of conspiracies is difficult to pull someone out of. It's almost like an addiction, and you can't force someone out of an addiction if they don't want to give it up. Consider counseling for yourself as well. It may help you navigate this situation. And the OP responds to this and says, I feel like I don't even know how to talk to her anymore. She rants at me about things, but I haven't had a good conversation with her for the longest time. I appreciate what you said about getting counseling for myself. I've honestly been so overwhelmed. Someone else says, you faced what I did with my brother. Unfortunately, the main problem with all things conspiratorial is the cult members are programmed to reject absolutely everything that refutes their positions. Counseling will only work if she realizes she has an issue. And you can't really use it as a lever because there is just no way she will respond to the stick without automatically concluding that you are a part of the cabal, deep state, libtard, them, that is out to get her and her cult members. It did not end remotely well with my brother. We are permanently estranged. And then the OP responds saying, I was afraid to hear this. She used to be a liberal, but she is now strongly anti-medicine, thinking of homeschooling our daughter because the education system is manipulating kids or whatever, anti-government. It's a long list. I'm sorry about your brother. Another commenter says, your daughter will do far better being raised in a co-parenting arrangement than being raised in a loveless home. Staying together for her is not the right choice. You need to want to stay together because that's what's best for you and your wife, and it seems like your wife isn't good for you anymore. And the OP responds saying, one of the things that really scares me about the idea of divorce is what would happen with a custody arrangement. I may not have any control over what our daughter is exposed to during her time with her mom. I'm also scared about her general attentiveness. My wife can be so wrapped up in her phone or online discussions that she tunes everything else out. If our daughter needs her or got hurt, I'm not confident she'd notice right away. Another commenter says, if it's possible, I'd try filming the moments you mentioned where your daughter is specifically trying to interact, but she's clearly not interested as she's on her phone, etc., and play them back to her. And the OP responds saying, thank you for filming suggestion. And the OP adds to that saying, she used to be a very outgoing person. She had a large supportive circle of family and friends, was involved in our community, and then the pandemic hit and she started spending so much time online and just never went back to being her old self. No matter how hard I tried or her family or friends tried to reach her. Another commenter says, as soon as you mentioned getting obsessed with a celebrity and now is against women of color, I pegged this as a Meghan Markle thing. I'm sorry she had found her dopamine hits in hatred. Best of luck to you and your daughter." And the OP responds saying, surprisingly, her obsession with Meghan Markle has been just as detrimental as her anti-medicine or anti-education beliefs. It's been one of her strongest running online fixations and, in many ways, acted as a gateway for more extreme behaviors. What started as a constant criticism slowly bled into racist attitudes in real life. Another user comments saying, "And you're perfectly okay having your children growing up to be racist too? You need to divorce her, no matter what happens to her. She's going to turn your children into hateful little bigots if they hear the pathetic vitriol their mother is spewing." And the OP responds saying, "I'm not okay with my daughter growing up to be racist or mean to other women. This isn't who my wife used to be. And I kept hoping something like therapy could help her find her way back. I've been doing everything I can to protect my daughter from this, but people keep acting like divorce is some magic fix. If we split, there's a good chance we'll have shared custody, and I won't be there to protect my daughter the way I can now." Another commenter says, "Talk to a lawyer. Usually they offer a free consult. This will give you the information you need to make a decision. I worried and worried for nothing. But do protect your daughter. Go for full custody and let her testify on her behalf." And the OP responds to this saying, "We'll definitely start looking into a lawyer and getting full custody." And then the OP makes an update about 1 month later, but basically the OP is just reiterating what he said in the last post we just read. And so let's skip towards his next post, which was 4 months later, and let's get into it. I'll try to keep this update short. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who took the time to comment and message me. Some of you helped me accept the reality I've been avoiding for a long time. My soon-to-be ex-wife was not going to get better, and I had to act to protect my daughter. I also want to specifically thank those who pointed me to the conspiracy casualty sub. Reading other family stories and seeing how similar the patterns were was incredibly validating. It helped me understand that this wasn't something I could love or wait my way out of. I took the advice of some commenters and I started documenting my ex's neglect of our daughter, her racism and extreme beliefs, and reached out to a divorce lawyer. I checked on our joint bank accounts as advised and discovered that she had been withdrawing large sums of money from a joint account we opened early in our marriage for family vacations, etc., and that we had discussed using to eventually set up a college fund for our daughter when she was born. When I confronted her, she initially denied taking the money. When I demanded she show me where the money went, she went on a long rant about creating a better world. She admitted she had donated money to organizations like TPUSA, claiming they would create better schools and keep kids safe. She also spent a significant amount on designer handbags, shoes, and clothing that she had hidden from me. The craziest thing is she was also being scammed by someone she met through some royal gossip subreddit who claimed to have hired a private investigator to expose Meghan Markle. Apparently, this person would send her negative articles about Meghan Markle and claim that the private investigator had discovered this information and sent it to the press, and my wife would send more money. She told me all of this as if it were completely reasonable and saw nothing wrong with it. I told her I was filing for divorce, and at first she thought I was joking. But then she exploded at me and began throwing things while ranting about me breaking up the family. A glass cup she threw hit me in the head. I left the house bleeding and went to my neighbors, who called the police. She had trashed the kitchen by the time the police showed up, and they arrested her after I explained what happened. I applied for and was granted a domestic violence restraining order, along with temporary custody of my daughter. My wife currently has supervised visitation only. She is facing a misdemeanor criminal charge related to the domestic battery incident, which is being handled in criminal court alongside the ongoing divorce proceedings. She is currently living with a former coworker, and her family has reached out to express support for me and my daughter. I am in the middle of divorce proceedings, and my lawyer believes I have a strong case for sole custody. This isn't how I ever imagined things ending, but I'm grateful I listened to the advice here when I did. My priority now is my daughter's safety, stability, and emotional well-being. Thank you to everyone who helped push me to act. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, as awful as it sounds, her hitting you with that glass might be the best thing to happen in this case. A CDV verdict is usually a massive help to securing custody. Best of luck to you and your kiddo. And hopefully your ex maybe someday regaining their sanity. And the OP responded to this saying, my lawyer told me the same thing. Before we had discussed how family courts preferred joint custody arrangements, but we might have a chance if I could prove neglect. Her hitting me with the glass and acting unhinged in front of the police really increased those chances. I'm just glad my daughter wasn't around when all this happened. I'll be going to therapy when the divorce is settled. I'm currently just focused on making sure my daughter is okay. Thank you for the concern. And then the OP clarifies saying she is facing a criminal case which is separate from our divorce proceedings. I'm sorry if that was confusing. And that is the last update we have received from the OP. And this was only posted about a month ago, so he could definitely come back with some updates about the legal proceedings or what happened. But for now, we are in the dark, but I really hope that the OP and his daughter are safe. My parents have joined some new age religion and intend to move me to a compound against my will. What can I do to get the hell out of here? So I really don't know how to start this, so I'll just get right into it. My mom and stepdad are really into new age science and beliefs. I've never agreed with them on this and didn't know how extreme it was. Recently, though, they've become involved in an extremely weird support group. I say that in quotes because I have no clue who they are. When I'm around, they never mention any group names or what organization they work for or are a part of. Because of this, I have not had much luck finding out stuff as New Age Cult gives too many results to look into. This Monday, my mom and stepdad sat me and my 4 siblings down. They told us that we will be moving at the end of the month to a more stable location within a spiritual community. According to them, they plan to pull all 5 of us, I'm 16, couldn't think of anywhere else to mention this, out of school here and enroll us in their mind awakening school wherever we move. I tried to get anything out of them, but they refused to talk to me at all about it. According to them, because I'm still a child in mind, body, and spirit, I need to listen to them and not ask questions. I've actually been freaking out since then and have been trying to get advice, but I've been unable to. They cut off the internet, phone, and TV Tuesday, and they have been keeping a laser focus on me and my siblings since then. I'm currently at a friend's house, and this is the only way I've actually got access to the internet. This seems like a cult 100% to me. Last night, they had 3 people come and talk to me and my siblings, and the stuff they told us was crazy. I was talked to alone by an old man who told me about how my mind is closed and that I will slowly learn to open it as my parents have, and that the leaders will love to meet me and put me in their programs. I need to know what I can do here. My dad has shared custody of me, and since Monday, I've had no contact with him. He is supposed to have a call with me every night, but my mom claims he's been informed and supports this 100%. I tried calling him this morning, but he didn't answer. He lives in another state, so it's kind of hard to get into contact with him outside of phone and email. I'm at a friend's house because I was able to leave the house for the first time in a week this morning after I told my parents I wanted to go to the park, but came here and told my friend everything. Her parents are not home, but she's trying to call them, and I plan to stay here tonight if I can. My parents have forbid me from using the internet because it's, quote, full of lies from them. I'm so lost right now, it makes me sick. I do not want to go with them to this obvious compound, and I need to know what I can do here. Can I just run away? And if my parents harbor me, can they get in trouble? If my mom has been lying about my dad, can he do anything? Thanks. And then the OP makes a quick edit to the post saying, I talked to my mom and told her because I would be moving soon, and this might be one of the last times I could see my friend, I would like to stay the night, and she said it was okay, and that this family was trustworthy not to try and corrupt my view. I got into contact with my dad, and he's pissed. He did not agree and was told I didn't want to talk to him. My 15-year-old sister's dad was told the same, despite the fact he has primary custody and she only spends the summers with us. My sister's dad is going to call CPS too, and I just got done with my call to them, but I won't repeat what they said here. I will be spending the night here, and when my mom asked me to come back tomorrow, my dad has told me not to go back and tell her that he'll be flying down here to Florida immediately if I don't check in with him or he hears I went back to her. He says that he is already looking into emergency custody. I want to thank my friend's parents real quick because holy fuck, they have been great. They both have been great and are working with my dad right now to help me. I also will be going and buying a burner phone tomorrow and withdrawing all my money from my bank. My dad says he will handle getting my stuff from my mom when the time comes. Thanks guys for the advice. And then the OP makes an edit about 1 month later. Let's get into it. Since my last post got popular and people still seem interested in my situation, I thought I would give you guys an update on everything. It's been over a month and I'm sorry I kept you guys waiting. Things were pretty crazy and my therapist said it probably wasn't the best idea to rant about it online until I felt ready. Well, now that I'm settled down a bit, I feel like it might be good to get this off my chest anyway. Sorry if this disappoints you guys, though as my dad says, I should not include any personal details for fear of leaking my identity, so even though I know the group now, I won't be naming them for fear of it getting back to me. So after I stayed the night with my friend's family, my mom and stepdad tried to get me to come back home immediately. My dad said not to go, so I somehow convinced my mom to let me stay the rest of this day, and I would come home that night. This plan didn't work out very well, as my sister's dad called the police to report that he couldn't contact my sister and was afraid she was kidnapped. It didn't take long before my mom caught on that I was the one who leaked to him their plans, and they freaked out. My mom then came to my friend's house and tried to force her way in to take me because I had been corrupted and needed to be locked away from bad influences until we left for the compound. My friend's parents called the police, and I called my dad, and he got to talk to my mom. I'll leave it short and say this was a nightmare situation that almost ended up with my mom being charged with trespassing. My mom and dad argued on the phone for over 3 hours outside of my friend's house. In the end, my dad made it so I would not have to go with them, but the only safe place my mom would agree to me staying is with my uncle 4 hours away. I stayed with him for over a week, and it was the worst week of my life. My mom called me constantly to try to talk to me and, quote, save me from the evil energies my father had possessed me with. My stepfather also began to send me various threats and told me that at the end of the month, I was coming no matter what. After a week of this, everything changed. My mom stopped calling me. My stepdad stopped texting, and they went quiet for 4 days. Me, my uncle, my dad, all of them couldn't reach them. My sister's dad also stopped being able to reach them. During this time, my mom bought my sister a plane ticket home, and my sister's dad only learned of this when he got a call after my parents dropped my sister off at the airport. After this, my mom called me one last time. She proceeded to tell me that she had been meditating, praying to my guardian spirits daily, and talking to the leaders, all to help me open my third eye to see the truth and understand I was being used by evil. During these sessions, apparently she finally realized the truth and saw me for the quote, evil spawn I was. According to her, I am a evil seed, and that I not only was brought here to bring evil spirits onto her and her good children, I also infected the womb and corrupted my sister. She told me to send my uncle down and pick up all of my worldly possessions that were infected and to not come with him or ever contact her or her family again. She ended up telling me that I was never her child and that she hopes the universe deals with me. The last contact I know about was her telling my dad she wants to revoke her parental rights. At the end of last month, they moved to the compound with my 3 step-siblings. I moved out to live with my dad and have been in therapy since then. Things are still pretty raw right now, and I really don't feel like getting into the emotions I feel towards this, but I feel like at least updating this may be a start. Thank you for everyone who gave advice and sent me messages on here offering help. I really do appreciate it. People acting strange at my door. Originally posted to r/RBI, and the post reads as follows. At around 8:15 in the morning, my doorbell rang. Pretty early to be ringing a doorbell, and I wasn't expecting anyone, so I walked quietly to the peephole and looked. There was a man in a hoodie and a baseball cap walking around on my porch. I watched him for a little bit, and then he rang the bell again. I went over to the front door and peeked out. There was a pickup truck parked across the end of my driveway, blocking it. My car was parked in the driveway. That struck me as super weird to not park along the curb, but blocking my driveway like I couldn't leave if I wanted to. I go back to the peephole and watch, and I see another man, also in a hoodie and baseball cap, poke his head out from around the corner of my walkway and then quickly go back behind the wall where I can't see him from the door. Now I'm really freaked out. They stayed for the next 15 minutes ringing my bell 5 times. The first man pacing the porch and looking at his phone, and the other man staying hidden around the corner the whole time. I called the police, but they didn't come until a little after they left. I am armed. I have no idea what they wanted. I didn't speak to them and try not to give them any clue that anyone was home, but my kids were up, although they were being pretty quiet. The man at the door did seem to try to listen for noises. I live in a typical suburban neighborhood, nondescript house with a minivan parked in the driveway. I'm not involved in anything shady or anything like that. Maybe they had the wrong house? They haven't come back so far, but I thought maybe somebody would know what they were up to. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, please get some sort of ring camera. Shady shit is less likely to happen if they know they are being recorded. Also, I love the car alarm technique if you had one. Someone else said, I have a security alarm siren and flashing red LED lights wired to a switch that I use to scare off uninvited guests. It works great. If your car alarm has a panic button, that will also work. Someone else says, we literally can't investigate this, but it could be anything. Someone pulls a truck into my driveway like once a week right now, asking to do my lawn or something since it's starting to get warm again. Could also be someone who intends to push into your door. Sure, less likely, but nothing's impossible. You might ask your neighbors if any of them got visitors. Someone else says, I had someone park as you described and ring my doorbell for 5 minutes at around 9 p.m. a month ago. I was laying down with my 1-year-old and eventually my wife got me up. I stupidly just went out without thinking. Turns out it was someone who lived a block away telling me my truck cargo light was on. Was your situation this innocent? I don't know, just saying it's not always crime. And then when I went to the OP's profile, the OP has not updated us on the situation ever. And this was 2 years ago, so I don't think we're going to get one, but that's pretty sketchy. I mean, for that one guy to keep going behind and peeking around the wall, that's sketchy. And then the guy just pacing in front of the door and the car blocking the driveway, all of that's very sketchy in my opinion. Luckily, the OP didn't go out, but hopefully they didn't show back up. And I mean, it's kind of concerning that the OP hasn't given us an update, so hopefully he's all right, but who knows? What do you guys think? Boyfriend won't stop watching our new neighbor out the window. Hiya. Not sure if this is the right place to post this or if it's even something I need to worry about. Haha. But would love some advice. For context, me, 39 female, and my boyfriend, 40 male, have lived together for the last decade and have been dating since high school. We live in a small town and are happy together. My boyfriend is a manager at a local store. I don't have much of an idea of how he acts at his work, but I'm friends with some of the other managers, and they have their complaints. Mainly that he passes work he should be doing off onto subordinates a lot. As a person, he is not cruel, but he can be a bit short, admittedly a bit lazy, and rude to some in and I don't care how you feel but won't intentionally upset you type of way. This will be important later. A couple months ago, a new family with maybe 3 kids moved in across the road. It just so happens that one of the kids, who's 16 to 18 female, works in the same store as my boyfriend. I'll call her Kay. The area of the town we live in has the houses very close together, with narrow streets and low walls around yards. Because of this, we can see right into our new neighbor's shed. It has a glass roof and wooden walls, so we can only see in from upstairs or from this one spot in the lounge that gives us a view through the shed door window. I see Kay in the shed all the time, almost whenever I pass a window. I don't look for her, and I just don't stop to watch her. It's just easy to notice. I've seen her play instruments in there before, and if you listen carefully, you can hear it. Sometimes it looks like she's just sitting in there chilling, but I don't know. In any case, she's in there often. I don't know what else she does in there because I don't look on purpose. My problem is that I think my boyfriend is intentionally watching her through our windows. I'll go upstairs to the bathroom and catch him looking out the window in that direction. He's even started sitting on the sofa besides the window in the lounge, which he normally doesn't like to sit in, which is the only spot in the lounge you can see into the shed from. I realize this doesn't sound like much, which is why I'm posting, but it's happening multiple times a day. Initially, I thought that maybe he was just listening to her play instruments, but then I'm catching him look myself, and she'll just be chilling, not making any music. Adding fuel to the fire, my friends who work at the store with him have mentioned to me how he helps her out, even when she doesn't need it, and is very patient and kind to her. This is a bit weird. Please refer to start of post. I told myself that it's because she's a new start, been there about 3 months I think, or because she's young. But if I'm being truthful with myself, they have new starts all the time, and the majority are young, and I've never heard of him acting like this before. What do I do? Does he just have a crush, or do I need to say something? Maybe this isn't something I need to worry about. Thank you for the advice. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, no matter what his intentions are, I definitely would not be comfortable with this. Even if they did not work closely together, he's quite literally spying on a underage girl. Kind of unsettling, even if he was single. I would ask him about it and hope for a truthful answer, but I doubt you're getting one. Someone else says, you've been together since high school, and I've noticed that a couple, after a long time together, will often have one or both people stuck at the age they were mentally when they first met. I agree with you and think your boyfriend has a crush on this girl, and I can't say if it's healthy or not, but it is fucking creepy that he is spying on and constantly helping an 18-year-old girl who actually works for him too. I would be very concerned if I were you and would bring this up and see what he says. Side note, you did not list one positive attribute of your boyfriend in this post, and I'm curious as to how the rest of your relationship is. Are you two both satisfied with your relationship? You've been together a long time too. As you said, do either of you want to get married? Or is that not of interest to you two? And the OP responds saying, we have a good relationship, yes, which is part of the reason we aren't married. We are happy as we are, and neither of us see a need for it. Also, I'm not sure about her age. I know she was under 18 when she started working there, either 16 or 17, but I don't know how old she is now. She's been there 3 or 4 months, but I can't be positive. Someone else says, OP, come on. He is 40 years old and spying on a young girl. Gross. Just gross. You need to let her parents know that people can see down into the shed that this girl is seeking privacy in. Sheesh. Put yourself in her shoes at that age. How on earth would you feel? Also, he obviously thinks highly of you, OP, doesn't he? Spying on this young girl right in front of you? Tell her parents, please. Keep this girl away from this bent, lazy dude going through a midlife crisis and spying on a young girl. Also, report his behavior to the store manager in order to protect this girl. And OP, as you enter your 40s, they can be awesome with the right guy or on your own, but certainly not with this dude. And then the OP actually made an edit to their original post saying, okay, I'm getting an awful lot of very not helpful comments. It's creepy. I get that. Why else would I be posting here? I'm asking, what do I do? Do I talk to him? Do I go across the road and talk to her or her parents? Do I talk to my friends who work with him? Counseling. Do I break up with him? I'm looking for advice. That's creepy is not advice. And sadly, none of the comments did give the OP the advice she was looking for, but many people in the comments, like the one I read, were just saying that it is extremely concerning, which is true. No doubt it is creepy that this guy is staring into a private area where a young girl is hanging out, and also how he works with her. That adds another layer of creepiness to it. But then the OP provides an update 2 days later. Let's get into it. Thank you to everyone who offered advice. This update could be a good or a bad one, depending on how you look at it. So when my boyfriend got home from work, I sat him down and told him I wanted to speak to him. I said that I wasn't accusing him of anything, but he needed to give me an explanation for why he kept watching Kay and why he was treating her the way he was at work. He said he was sorry, that he hadn't thought about what he was doing would look from my point of view. One of the people boyfriend works with, Lee, is Kay's uncle. I don't know Lee well, but he's best friends with boyfriend. My boyfriend told me that Kay had been on temporary sick leave from work because Lee caught her with evidence of SH on her arms. Lee spoke to her about it and found out that she is a lesbian and is struggling because her parents don't support that type of thing. Her parents have been told that Kay is on holiday from work rather than sick leave because they can't be told about the SH without telling them about her preferences sexually, which could be dangerous for her. This leave is temporary until Lee figures out how to help her. But because they can't tell her parents, Lee has asked a boyfriend to keep an eye on her as much as he can since we live next to each other. Boyfriend then told me that part of the reason he has been taking this so seriously is because 10 years ago, his cousin committed S-word because he was gay. I was a bit upset that he hadn't told me this before. I knew that he had died, and I attended his funeral, but I thought it had been because of depression that he committed S-word. He explained to me that it was because he wasn't sure if I was homophobic or not. I come from a very conservative Christian family, and while I admittedly was homophobic when I was younger, I am ashamed of myself for that and would like to think I've grown as a person since then. He then told me that this situation had made him realize there was faults in our relationship. This was partially because he didn't know that I was a safe person to speak to about what Kay was going through, and also because watching Kay reminded him of how I used to be. Kay plays instruments in her shed, as I mentioned in the original post, and he said that seeing her so passionate about music reminded him of when we were teenagers, when music had been my greatest passion, and I had wanted to pursue a career in it. He said that he thinks we both have lost our way a bit since we were young, and I have to agree. I have no passions and no hobbies anymore. I work in a job I hate, and I see now that having both lost ourselves so badly has had more of an effect on our relationship than I thought. We have decided that we will be going to couples counseling. I will be signing myself up to some music classes, and boyfriend is thinking about going to individual therapy to help him work through some of the guilt he has over his cousin's S-word. In terms of Kay, I have suggested to my boyfriend that we put some money towards helping Lee in paying for therapy for her. We are comfortable with money and should be able to afford to help her. Now that boyfriend and Lee know I am not homophobic, we can work together to figure out the best way to help her without putting her in danger with her parents. Thank you for everyone's advice. I hope this update will do. Haha. P.S. Before anyone says anything about it, I have confirmed that what my boyfriend said to me is true with both Lee and a friend who works with them. So I know this is not just some excuse he's made up. Thank you. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, wow, that was a twist I didn't think I was going to see. I'm very touched by your boyfriend's caring nature and your openness to talking to him and understanding what is going on without judgment. Both of you are very mature, and I really do respect that as someone who is now in a 5.5-year relationship and working hard toward a long-term commitment. I really do hope you can both help rekindle each other's passions, and also that you'll both be able to help Kay in her struggle with her sexuality, along with providing her with any support that you can. And then someone responds to that saying, right? I was expecting something sort of horrendous. And it is, but in a sad way, not a creepy way. I'm glad that this young kid has people who care about her though. And I'm glad your boyfriend has been extra kind to her. It's probably making a world of difference right now, and you don't even know it. I hope everything works out in therapy with you two and your bond grows stronger. I also hope that girl gets the help that she needs. And then someone else responds saying, good luck with everything. And as a small, safe gesture, if you feel safe doing it, you could pop a small rainbow flag or poster in a window, so if Kay or anyone else like her in your neighborhood walks past, they know there's a safe friend. And the OP responds saying, I might speak to my boyfriend about doing that. Thank you for the idea. And then someone else says, what a fantastic update. I am so happy for you both. And the OP responds saying, thank you so much. OP's mom goes to Mexico to meet her long-distance boyfriend and goes missing. Please, I really need help. I haven't heard of my mom in 14 hours and she's by herself in Mexico. Something is very, very wrong. Hi everyone. I have never posted on a subreddit before, so I'm unsure how to start, but I really need help on how to proceed right now. I will attempt to be straight to the point. My mom went to Mexico City exactly 8 days ago to meet up with this guy she's been chatting with online for roughly 3 months. I couldn't go because my passport process wasn't complete, and she couldn't hold on for a few weeks, so she decided to go by herself. I had her location tracked and told her to be sure to ask for Wi-Fi whenever she went. I urged her to be careful as hell. She left the hotel she was staying in by herself in Mexico City last Tuesday and went to Veracruz with this guy to stay in a different hotel together. She FaceTimed me daily and 85% of the time had connection because of Wi-Fi or local coverage. Fast forward to last night. She's back near Mexico City in a place called Tiziuca and says she's going to eat with him and other people she just met basically. 2 hours later, she FaceTimes me and she's flat out drunk and shows me something weird on the floor that I could not make out, and they're yelling back and forth at each other. She claims that they don't want her to talk to me and only focus on me, and she begs me to push the flight up from Sunday to tomorrow, so I did that. He insults her repeatedly and then insults me on the phone, and then she insults him back. He keeps pushing her and cornering her and launches a punch/hit at her face and grabs her phone, and it goes flying across the room. The 2 other people are simply sitting at the table and laughing it off, and she grabs her phone and exits the house, but I'm telling her not to or the connection will be lost. She doesn't hear me, and she's yelling in the street asking for someone to call the police in Spanish. I'm just sitting on the call trying to figure out what the fuck is happening, and I tell her to calm down, but she's not paying attention to me. The call drops and I haven't heard of her since. None of my messages have been delivering since 1 a.m. yesterday morning. If she went back in the house, surely the Wi-Fi would have reconnected and they would have delivered. They haven't, and I am incredibly worried. Her location has also dropped off the map, and Google location claims she was last seen over 36 hours ago. Find My iPhone won't play a sound unless there's connection, and there hasn't been for also 36 plus hours. I've tried a million times to reach her. Nope. I told my mom that in case anything happens, she can repeatedly press the side button for an emergency call, but that didn't go through her mind. The behavior in that house was extremely off based on the call. The energy just didn't feel right from the start. I called 911 right after the call dropped, and they connected me with another place where they connected me with another place. Sadly, I don't have the address or even a street name to provide because this was a grid neighborhood in a rundown part miles outside of Mexico City in a town called Tizayuca. I contacted 911 again, but dead end. I keep reaching higher levels of assistance now. I know the guy's name, number, Facebook, and have a photo of his ID for safety reasons, so I know who exactly he is, but there's no address on the ID. My mom doesn't know when the flight leaves for Tuesday. She only asked me to reschedule it ASAP. I did, but she won't be able to see any Delta notifications since her phone has been unreachable for a while now. She has no idea when the new flight is set to leave. I postponed it for Thursday now in case she's found within the next day. My question is, what now? I'm a 19-year-old guy in New York, by the way. I've never been to Mexico and wouldn't know how anything works. My Spanish is generally shitty, speaking-wise, but I understand it perfectly. There's too many scenarios that are racing through my head. Please, if someone can give me advice on what to do next. And then the OP gives us an update, saying, I did contact the embassy and they were very, very helpful. Asked me for a lot of info, and they got a hold of the police near the town she was in after a few hours. They called me just now and claim that my mom and that guy left the house a few minutes after everything happened. and he, quote, drove her to the airport. The police and others on the four-way call questioned this because they were all drinking. They told me they'll contact back in 15 minutes because they want to confirm the plates to the car or something. I'm happy the woman who spoke with the officer said some small tip, but it adds more questions in my head because that's them alone in one car. And then the OP makes a second update saying, the team of 2 people and the officer on the phone who've been helping me most of the way told me they have the car's plate numbers because of a CCTV screenshot and put a tab on it so they can be on the lookout for it. They also are contacting all the nearby hotels in Mexico City and are looking for either her or his name at check-ins, I believe. But he explained to me it's now a waiting game and have to hope that news shows up at this point. The lucky thing is they have plate numbers, but it wasn't a cab, and her phone hasn't synced for almost a day. Surely she'd have a Wi-Fi and a charger with her if she had arrived at a hotel already. Update 3. I just checked with Delta on the phone even after checking online and seeing that she hasn't checked in for her flight due in a few hours. I probably have to push the flight further down in another day or two because Delta didn't help me much. Also, I did find this guy's Facebook, which seems kind of sketchy. His number was on it, so I got his WhatsApp and noticed he was online much recently. I forwarded all of this and the picture of his ID I asked my mom to send me earlier in the day to the man helping me from the embassy. It's mostly a waiting game now. No signs showing my mom's phone as turned on or had service since the call dropped last night. I have to sleep and I have work, but now I don't know if I should go in case I miss any call. Update 4. 36 hours later. Long story short, I filled out a missing persons questionnaire for review and I got the license plate number, make and model, etc. I think I'm doing a good thing right now. My mom's coworker took me to my local precinct, but that was a very big dead end. They are considering I should hire a PI for this now, but the man who's been in touch with me hourly from the Mexican embassy is telling me they're looking and will get in touch with me on an update by midday. Right now, it's 11:30 a.m. I hate to say it, but there's no positive updates right now. The hole is deepening and no signs of any activity on Find My iPhone. Gmail tracking. Cannot play an emergency noise because the phone isn't connected to internet and no calls go through. I really hope the day ends with some positivity because right now I've almost exhausted most of my abilities to move forward. And oh my God, I can't even imagine how he feels right now. I mean, I would be beyond terrified. And the OP is exhausting all of his efforts, contacting the embassy, contacting the police, etc., and they can't give him any answers. God, I would be a wreck. I mean, this is like a nightmare situation. But then the OP provides a 5th update. Let's get into it. Guys, my mom is okay. Good news, but also basic news. She FaceTimed me and said she had no service, etc., etc. The embassy personnel were in the house as well as the officers checking once again and found her in the same spot she was in 2 days ago. They interviewed her privately and pressured her to spill whatever truth there was, but she stuck with the idea that it was a drunk fight and a misunderstanding, but I'm not happy one bit. They questioned why does she have connection now, but she didn't yesterday, and she couldn't even respond to that. I'm honestly so exhausted with her, and even her coworker and I spoke about the fact that she needs to grow up because she still insists on her flight departing on Sunday. I'm not sure how to feel with her staying over there for the original 5 extra days, and if I have now canceled my report and something does happen within the next 5 days, it's going to look like I'm just a crying wolf. This was exhausting, and I don't think she understands the amount of stress she put people in, but she insisted she's fine. She told me she's fine. I keep trying to convince her, and even made up an excuse that I can't switch the fight anymore, or I'll have to pay out-of-pocket money, and it's like she doesn't seem to care. She told me she wants to come home and just forget everything ever happened as well as this guy. And I'm not convinced that's going to be the case. And it annoys me because I know what I saw. I'm just happy she's okay, I guess. Everything seems to be okay. Officers took a photo of her for verification, even made her show her body to make sure there's no bruising, etc. And I even had to speak to them in Spanish, which somehow my Spanish sounded fluent for once. By the way, my mom is Mexican, so she communicated with them perfectly, but she doesn't know any direct family there since she's been in the US for the past 20 plus years. Final few notes. I just want to say thank you for everyone investing so much time and help into this. I used Reddit as a last resort after a few hours, and it ended up giving me multiple ideas that turned out to be so useful. Sorry for worrying everyone here, but I'm not happy with the results as a whole that much, and just want her to come home because the fact that she wants to stay an extra few days isn't sitting right with me. Trust me. Her being alive and clearly safe/comfortable makes me feel relieved, but I don't know what to think. I appreciate each and every one of you, and sorry for not answering messages because I was busy most of the day. I was about to start making a whole GoFundMe for a PI, but it won't be necessary now because I'm genuinely so warmed by everyone going out of their way to check themselves and even offer help. Update 6. She's coming home tomorrow, Thursday instead of Sunday now. I think she woke up this morning with some brain cell growth, so thank God I didn't make any flight changes. Update 7. She's home, and we're all good now because we talked it out and she's sorry and explained to other people I told her, and they told her not to do that and leave someone hanging, etc. But she's home, so thank you everyone. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, I have the feeling something happened to the mom during those hours of no contact, and she was probably in shock when she first contacted her son. The comment about wanting to forget what happened makes me think some pretty bad shit went down. Really though, this woman is extremely fortunate her son sounded the alarm because otherwise, with no one to miss her or notice her disappearance, she could have easily ended up dead. And someone replies to that saying, I am sadly sliding this way too. I am Mexican and I wouldn't go by myself to this town in the middle of nowhere. Hell, last time we visited, I didn't let my husband go to the store alone in some of the towns we visited, 1 block away. Crimes against women are higher in small towns, and the police are usually unhelpful. I was honestly expecting the worst out of this story. And then someone else replies saying, absolutely. I think that her sticking to the drunk fight story is because she was threatened into it, or they would hurt her son. The fact that he was up and down for 5 days and he didn't contact him till after it is super sketchy. Edit. Also, the fact that she doesn't care about the cost, she just wants to go home, says something. And then someone else comments saying, I would bet hard cash that she got herself mixed up in the drug trade somehow. Another user comments saying, she was probably drugged and very nearly trafficked, but they dumped her when embassy and cops came sniffing around. Another person says, gosh, I felt like I was watching Dateline reading this. I was fully expecting the update to be that she was never found. What a shitty mom putting her son through this. Another commenter says, I was horrified reading this. I'm glad the mother is back in the US. I'm convinced something horrible happened to her. And I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, such a horrifying situation. I mean, just up until that final update, I was just waiting for the OP to say, they can't find my mom. I was waiting for that horrible and sad update where he couldn't find his mom or his mom was found in a horrific condition or something like that. But thank God she's safe and home. That's great. But what do you think happened during those few days of no contact? Because she said she was fine, but why would she not reach out to her son who is frantically looking for her? I find it very, very odd, and I guess you can subscribe to any of the theories in the comments that these people had, but what do you guys think? I'm very curious as to what you guys think that the user or the mom was caught up in and why she wouldn't want to contact her son. But luckily, the mom has such a great son, the OP, who wanted to help her out and acted quick and acted fast. And luckily, the embassy and the cops found her before who knows what happened. Such a scary situation, though, and this was the best case scenario. And all right, guys, that wraps up some true horrifying Reddit threads. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. The channel's goal is 1 million subscribers, so if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps more than you know. And I mean, you just watched to the end of a 2-hour-long video. I think you enjoyed the content enough to subscribe. I appreciate it. And you guys are the best. This is the best community on YouTube, hands down. And yeah, please leave a comment down below about anything. I read every single comment, so comment just anything. I will read it and maybe reply. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. These cases were horrifying and wild and just super, super crazy. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy some other videos on the channel. So go check out some other videos on the channel. And all right, that was enough yapping. And thank you so much for watching. And this is Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.